Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. We are going to start now. For the live captions and translations, please scan the QR code on your screen. We'll be doing Q&As at the end of the workshop. Please direct all of your questions through the Q&A tab located at the top of the chat. During the workshop, we'll have 2 live challenges where you will have a chance to win a $30 GoGift gift card. 3 gift cards will be drawn for each challenge among the correct answers. Don't forget to scan the QR code on the screen when it appears. The winners will be announced and the jacket of inspiration will be distributed after all Inspire 2024 workshops are completed in September. Now, I will hand it off to Plutonem to talk about game feel, the basics of engaging. Take it away.
Thank you. Hi, welcome to my talk about game feel. We'll be talking about input and feedback to input. So let's get it started. So the agenda for today, I'm gonna introduce myself and introduce the topic. We'll talk a little bit about what is game feel, and then we'll go over 3 of the aspects of it. So animation, sounds, and visual effects. And then we'll end with the Q&A. So let's get started with it. So introduction, who am I? So hi, my name is Emil. I've been on Roblox for like 15 years. I joined in 2009 when I was just a little 11 years old kid. I've learned programming and building and so much more on Roblox since then. Right now, I'm a full-time game developer making experiences on Roblox for everyone to enjoy. So I focus a lot on visuals and gameplay. I don't do much of the system stuff. I still do some from time to time, but it's not what I focus on for the most part. Um, I have a degree in 3D animations. I actually went to college a little bit in programming, but I decided that I wanted to try something that I had no idea really what to do. So I went and got myself a degree in 3D art for like 3 years. It was pretty fun. I learned like so many things, and it allowed me to be a significantly better developer with that. So a little bit after working in the VFX industry, I moved to becoming a full-time developer. It basically started with me being an accelerator in the summer of 2021. I don't know why I wrote 2020, but it's 2021. um, I'm currently the lead developer of Riotfall. It's a first-person shooter that is extremely high fidelity. We started it during the accelerator, and then we continued it with the game fund that Roblox offered us. And then, yeah, it was really, really fun. We made something that we never thought we could do. And it got us a nomination at the 2023's Innovation Awards. Um, so yeah, the little personal things about me. I love my cat, and I'm passionate about cars. I have a couple cars and even a motorcycle. It's stuff that I spend my personal time mostly in when I don't do Roblox games. So, right, let's get into the reason why you guys came here. So, what is game feel? Game feel is anything that you respond to your user. It's the way your game gives feedback to any input or literally anything that happens within your players. So was the input that the player did, was it a success? Was it a failure? Was it a close call? Do the interactions, like, do they actually feel physical? Like when you press a button, is the button actually feeling like it's being pressed? And is the intensity and responsiveness of the action, aka like if you're opening a door versus if an explosion's going off, are you balancing the things right to the point where the player knows where to put their attention on? So game feel happens mostly when you get to the final-ish product of a feature, not necessarily your entire experience. It's essentially replaces the core mechanic gameplay that you have for something a little bit more smooth, a little bit more fun. It's basically the art of polishing, and yeah, like I mentioned, it's the final step to a feature. So you can do it whenever you want. Uh, it can be earlier. Of course, if you just do game feel, you will not have a game. So it's really good, but it's basically adding on to make your mechanics really good. So how does it apply on Roblox? You probably know at this point that Roblox is a very different platform than traditional games. So those are only like concepts that we take from AAA games or other games like this, and we adapt them. So sometimes if you watch talks about game feel, there will be a lot of like platformers stuff like Coyote Time and jump buffering. This it can apply to Roblox, but it's not really the focus of what will actually matter at the end of the day. So of course it applies through user interface, like every motion and everything, like focus on what matters basically in your UI. You can apply it with adding animations. You can do things to the cameras. You can add particles. You can add sounds, and honestly, just basically everything. So let's get on. Why would you do this? 1 second, very thirsty. Yeah. Okay. It's like take it easy. So what is the point of doing this? Like, why would you do this? Um, the biggest reason I found is a better D1 retention. Um, basically, what is D1 retention? It's a metric that measures how like people have like hold on 1 second. It measures a lot the onboarding experience of your players. Essentially, the first time they play, are they having a great experience? Are they do they know where to go? So if you have a game that is already popular for maybe a year, 2 years, you might have played a game at this point in your lifetime that it was that you enter the lobby and there's just so many things around you, like buttons and leaderboards and things and moving stuff and animations and package and bundles and everything. So it's easy for new players that enter like this area and they start playing the game. Like they don't really know where to focus their attention or what to do, what to look at. So basically, a better game feel is going to make your players understand what actually matters. You're going to be able to focus um, the true things, the right things for new players, and then for other players, you can design the game feel for them later and everything. So it will also increase your session time. Basically, if you have a task in your core mechanic loop, like your core loop that is a little bit mundane, but you have to kind of do something, um, the game feel of that mundane task can actually make it way more fun. For example, if you have a simulator that is about chopping wood and the tree is really static and nothing happens when you hit it, it's not really fun. You don't feel like you're doing anything. You don't really see progress or anything. Meanwhile, if the tree is being hit and it shakes and there's a beautiful animation to help it with it, it's going to make it so much better. So for monetization, it also helps like sell the proper products. So if you're capable with using game feel techniques to improve the conversion rate by just putting the right products to the new players, like cheaper products or starter packs, if you're capable of using game feel techniques to make it like be the primary focus, your conversion rate's going to be higher. And then once you convert them, you can also sell them the appropriate next products by using game feel techniques. Um, so yeah, I talked a little bit about funnels. Basically, a funnel is a way to look at the progression of a player through your experience. For example, from the moment that they start to the moment where they exit, they're going to be multiple steps, like going to pick up their tool, start digging, upgrade their tool, upgrade their backpack. That would be for a simulator, for example. and basically you will know when the players exit the game, and often you can work on the game feel of the features around this if your mechanics are good, and it will actually make that specific problem in your funnel gone. So that was a little bit of gibberish if you're not into analytics, so we'll get on to the more fun stuff. um, so what is the process of doing this? Like, when do you do this? It's something that I think a lot of people do naturally. Like, they do something and then at some point they kind of like make it better. But it's something that you can actually take the time to do one thing at a time. So when your game is finished, you should take a step where you take a look at all your game and you make sure that the game feel from start to finish, all the interactions, all the little things are very, very satisfying. Um, Personally, I have an order of do things, but there's no part, like, you don't have to do this order. If you're have like a if you're more of a sound designer, you might have like you might find it easier to just do, more sounds before doing animations or visual effects. For example, I know a lot of people that really do a lot of particle effects. Personally, I don't really do much, so I start with animation, sounds, and then I finish with my visual effects. I wrote that this is an iterative process. Sorry, my first language, not English. um, yeah, you will not always get it right. And the best thing you can do is playtest and listen to player feedback and see where they're actually feeling like they find it boring or they find it unappealing or don't really know where to go or what to do. So take the time to do it all over again every now and then. So yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about designing motion. So to design motion, so basically when I'm talking about designing motion, I'm essentially talking about making anything in your game move. And I'm not saying like make move everything, but like everything that you have an interaction with should have some sort of motion probably. And by motion, I don't necessarily mean like moving. It can be like a color motion where it's like the you change the color when the button's being hovered. But we'll talk a little bit more about like motion directly moving things. So we'll look into the laws of motion. Basically, you can look those up. It's Newton laws. They're really good. Essentially, they will tell you what is the right motion to anything. Um, Respecting inertia, essentially, if you get hit in the face, you will not bend forward. You'll bend backward. If you have something big like a massive safe door that you're robbing or something, if it opens like in 1 second and just is like whoop and it's like open, it will not feel like it was a heavy door or something. So take the time to like make it open slowly and work hard to get there. Um, and when possible, if you're doing something, put an opposite force. So if you're firing a double barrel shotgun, you will have a lot of recoil, and sometimes it's portrayed with like essentially kicking back the player, so you can even fly with it. So yeah, the proper intensity of the motion is very, very important. Um, like I said earlier, if you open a door and there's an explosion exploding right next to you, it should not have the same intensity and same focus on the game feel. Like, you should have very, very minimal game feel when opening a door versus like when you have the explosion, you're going to spend a lot of time polishing the shakes and everything. And when you can, you're going to be putting a little bit of randomness, especially for stuff that is very, very repetitive. So, for example, like hitting something constantly, like mining, or whatever. If you always apply the same forces, it'll be a little bit weird. So, quickly, we'll go over some of the important motion principles that I find. There's a lot more. There's like 12 of them from Disney's Illusion of Life. It's a book. It's amazing. But basically, there's 12 principles that they use. Some of them are a little bit outdated. They wrote this years ago, but those are really, really good in games. The fours that I've written here, yeah, they're personally the most important ones. according to me, I guess. We'll go over all of them individually, so I won't really talk more. But yeah, about that. That's about it. So the first one is timing. So in my opinion, it's like probably the most important one out of everything you do. It's basically defining how things move over time. That's like so simple, but it's not like people often just like they just see something and they adjust like the duration of the motion. They're like, this door doesn't open fast enough, and they make it fast. But it's like it's a little bit. I would say it's way more than just this. So it's actually the speed over time. So it's like the position of the thing. How does it move? Is it going to swing and hang a little bit? Is it going to open fast and then slow down? Uh, just changing the different, like changing over different types of timing and everything and adjusting this is going to tell different emotions. If you have a game like Doors, um, the popular escape game and everything, it will be a lot more urgent and the doors will open like quickly versus like if you're just playing Lumber Tycoon, the door can open pretty softly. Like there's no emergency to open doors. So basically, uh, adjust the timing depending on the emotion that you want to have. If you're doing simple like UI transitions, like opening a menu and you want a little things, I recommend like a range which is like zero point 0.2 to 0.35 for regular motion. So nothing like fancy curves that you probably shouldn't do when you open a UI anyway. Um, yeah, that's about it. 0.2 to 0.35-ish, 35. So the second one is follow through. So the follow through is basically um, when something reaches the goal, essentially like you open the door, it doesn't mean that you have, my cat is screaming. It's pretty funny. What a timing. Um, yeah, so basically when you follow through, it's the animation will continue a little bit after it reached the goal. Basically, if you open a door, if you look at the GIF, it's basically doing this. Once doors open, it still goes a little bit further and comes back. This is pretty useful in most of everything that you will be moving. It will make stuff a little bit more bouncy, springy, natural. Stuff that doesn't do this feels stiffer. So basically, if you want stuff to feel a little bit friendlier and cool and interesting, follow through is definitely amazing for this, and you can apply it to basically everything that moves. Um, Secondary action. This one's also, I mean, they're all important. Secondary action is basically anything after the first action. So basically, in this video, we see my character hitting a dummy, and what we the secondary action is basically everything that happens to the dummy, whether it's the animation, the shake, the highlight, or the particle effects. So if everything you do have like good secondary actions, all the input will feel 10 times better. They're like key to to game feel basically. So just use anything to help you. Particle effects are great for that. Staging. This one is also, I mean, they're all important. I keep saying this. Staging is awesome. It's composition, basically. Are you showing your stuff in a good way, or are you showing it in a bad way? If you spend time doing game feel on something and you make something really cool, if it's hidden behind some leaves and the level design isn't really good, you are wasting time essentially. So make sure that if you spend time doing game feel on something, um, present it the proper way. And staging, I would even say, includes, is it overwhelming? Like if your thing, is it too much? Like is it too much in your screen? Is it showing like is the explosion too much to the point where it kills gameplay basically? So yeah, think about this. Also, yeah, if you're probably going to have a lot of things in your games, a lot of systems. Are you putting like the right things at the right place? That'll definitely help. Yeah, basically that's about it. That's the notes I have. So, okay, that was a lot of theory and stuff. We'll talk a little bit about how to apply it. How do you do this in your games? So, the easiest way to get into game feel is to use tweens. Um, Roblox has a thing called the tween service. It's an API. There's other like Lua libraries that you can use to tweak them, modify them, make new ones, have a little bit more control. But they're amazing to just get started on it. It's so easy to set up something, and it's very, very predictable. Like once you learn what the presets are, you can basically pretty much estimate exactly what's going to happen. So they can be good if you want to start a first draft of something that you would want further, like to push further in the future, like actually animate it with keyframes. But yeah, they're amazing. And honestly, you can use them basically everywhere for UI and a lot of things. So, however, yeah, there's a couple things. Tweens aren't good at continuity of motion. I'm gonna have like a two slides ish. I'm going to show exactly what that means. Tweens are also incapable of going from, I mean, they can only go from one state to another. Basically, they're unable to stay at the same place. So let's say you have a coin and you just want to shake it. Tweens aren't really good at this. They're better at going from one place to another, but not staying at the same place. And yeah, they offer low customization. So if you aren't satisfied with one of the presets, you will probably have to go with another system, basically. There's the link as well if you want to look at the easing styles, which is this. So yeah, I'm going to go to the next slide to explain a little bit more. Okay, so this is a quick example, like straight, simple Lua, just showing what the coin is doing, essentially just requiring the tween service and making a new tween info, which is basically a description of how you want the motion to be. In this case, 2 seconds the duration. And then we want a cubic interpolation. Real quick, cubic is the top right one. Personally, I'm a big fan of cubic. I think it's this very, very smooth. And the easing direction is in out, which means if you look at the previous here, it goes from the bottom and it slowly accelerates to the top. And at the very top, it's like very, if you put a line straight, it's very, very stiff compared to the beginning. Like it's progressing and accelerating slowly, but then it hits like a wall basically. So in out is basically duplicate that curve and then make it the opposite. So it's going to accelerate and decelerate at the very end. So it's going to make something very, very smooth, like this. Sorry, I didn't switch the page. So yeah, that's about it. You can use either in, either out. Out is very common for most input because you want like a instant acceleration, but you want like mostly the deceleration of things. It's a lot prettier and it's in kind of like make things feel a little bit slow because you click on them, they don't really start moving. So that's about it for tweens. Yeah, you create them and you put properties in them. I put C-frame, but you can actually put colors. You can put like basically any property that you would think is animatable. It probably works for the most part, and then you play it. So that's the script to make this. Okay, so next up is something called springs. I think there's been a talk. Hold on, I'll take a sip. I think there's been a talk about springs a couple of years ago. I don't remember. I think Quinty, like Trey Reynolds, some like did it. I recommend watching it. Springs is basically, I would say, the holy grail of motion, of easy motion. Once you get the hang of it, you can make everything move in basically every motion possible the way you want, and it's super, super customizable. Springs have the continuous motion that I will talk in a next slide, actually. The only problem with springs is if you're a beginning, uh, like a beginner developer, they might be a little bit harder to set up than tweens. And I guess tweens aren't necessarily, not tweens, but springs aren't necessarily as creative, I would say, as tweens, for example, where a spring is basically a little bit predictable. It's always like the same thing. It's always from one place to another. Sometimes you can put velocity in this. Like this one is exactly an example of adding velocity to a spring. So basically my item is not moving and I'm not telling it to move. I'm just telling it, like I'm just adding a force to it that's pushing it upward and a little bit turning it. So it does this, but it's a little bit more, it's less predictable. It works in a particular way. If you look, one sec, I'll just go back here. If you look at something like, hold on one second. If you look at, for example, like bounce or circular, those tweens are definitely more into, I would say, creative modes where they don't necessarily do something. My cat is throwing stuff on the ground. It's crazy. All right, so, okay. Why is this? I don't know why the slide is black. Let me just try to slideshow. Okay. I guess you guys can see it from there, I suppose. Not sure why it's black. But yeah, basically motion continuity is basically when if you change the target halfway into the things, is this gonna interrupt it and make like a weird motion? I have no idea why it's black. It's kind of annoying me. Anyway, and basically if you have a spring, if you change the target halfway through it, you can see that it actually keeps going very, very smoothly. There's no, like, you can't see like the visible interruption versus like in between. You can actually see it. So let me just go to the next one. Okay, so you figure out some tweens. You've been tweening UI, you've been tweening things, you've used springs, you make springs to make everything go around and stuff. There's a very important thing about game feel. It's stuff that you apply to camera. Basically, if you want like a big explosion and stuff, one of the best way to convey this is just shaking the camera. It's an amazing tool. However, you have to be like super careful about making people motion sick. So honestly, there's a new property which is amazing, which is called GUI service that reduce motion enabled. GUI service, whatever. Some people are gonna flame me, that's why. So yeah, basically your camera motion is really, really important to toggle off if people have this enabled. It means they'll probably leave your game if you don't use this. So it's an amazing tool. It's awesome to make smooth transition between places, cutscenes and everything. But yeah, just make sure you don't make people sick if you do it. All right. Let's talk a little bit about sounds. When you're designing your game feel, you will want to add sounds. It's basically, I would say, sounds are essentially what a third of what game feel is, if not half. I'm not a sound designer myself. I don't really do the crazy sound stuff, but I've over the years, I mean, I've been doing so much game stuff and sounds for my games that I've kind of like found a couple of things that is very important. I have a couple sound libraries, some free ones, and everything. And one of the things I found very important was to describe my sound, what I was actually looking for specifically before going and searching in those libraries. And the reason is it's easy to get lost into like so many sounds and completely disrespect like your direction of what you're actually wanting to find as a sound. So describe what you're looking for, describe how impactful that sound is. If you're looking for a quieter sound, um, write it down. And also something very important to consider is like how often does it play? So if it's something like picking up something on the ground, but you pick it up like by the thousands every play session, you will want a certain type of sound that is not super annoying, something more quiet and not really impactful. So personally, my workflow when I design things, I have most of my animation stuff done, and I just take a video, like a video, record my screen, um, record everything that I need. I bring that into Ableton, which is my software that I use, and I design the sound right there. And I make sure that every sound stays individually. That way I can bring them in Roblox and sync them properly. And if there's another thing or I decide to not want this particular sound, I can still modify it. But yeah, basically designing over your gameplay will help like so much, and you can make really, really good game feel. Something very important in your game feel, if you want clarity, basically, if you want your good sounds to stand out and the bad ones dip in the void, like just, like the less important sounds, um, make sure that you sort your sounds into what their frequencies are. So if you have sounds that are bassy, and I mean, a coin, like picking up a coin can be bassy, can have like a certain hit to it. Um, However, if that is unimportant, you will not want the sound to be bassy. Basically, put the bass where the sounds are really important and not too often, otherwise it will cause hear fatigue. So, for example, if you have like a chest opening, um, when you purchase the chest, you should hear the coins be spent. However, the base hit should be when you get the reward. That's when you want the juice. If your stuff is bassy everywhere, like all your sounds have like so much bass and everything, um, you will just it will just sound like a mud. So yeah, there's a thing in Roblox called like a EQ. Essentially, it's an equalizer. Personally, I do it out of Roblox, but if you feel like doing it directly in Roblox, I think it's possible. So, all right. So another way to make sounds stand out, it's called sidechain. Basically, it's a property of the compressor sound effect instance in Roblox. And what this does is it it will duck the sounds that are unimportant when you play the ones that are important. For example, if you have a hit sound of like you hitting someone or tagging someone, if you have music and ambient sound, those sounds will automatically just have a lower volume while the hit sound is playing. It's an amazing feature. Um, it makes wonder. So consider using it if you want your stuff to stand out. So last category, I'll talk a little bit visual effects, and yeah, that's it. So why visual effects? Like, isn't that like part of motion or something? And it's like, I would say it is motion, but it's not the same kind of motion. Basically, it is complementary things. It's like the confetti. Um, it's just other stuff. It's not the gameplay. Um, it's little things that add and confirm the input and everything. So when you shake the button, if you make little things pop up out of it, it'll be way cooler. So when I talk about particles and visual effects, I'm not talking about the ones that are the gameplay. For example, like an ultimate in a fighting game. The ultimate itself is the gameplay. It's the mechanics. So the art is actually leading the gameplay, and like I mean, not necessarily leading the gameplay, but they work in pair together. Um, However, adding like camera shake would be part of the game feel. So yeah, it's adding effects is basically just making adding stuff to a feature that already works. So all your game works, everything is good. You add particle effects to make sure that everything is properly viewed and seen and everything. So you complement the action. For example, I have like a dash particle effects, even though the character is standing. I wish I had an animation for that. And this one's a spinning knife. It's actually a trail for when you knife in the air. So that's about it. It's not the thing that I'm the best at, making effects, so I do kind of this. Um, but yeah, I usually ask for friends to make like the dash one, and even like the art for the top one was done by a friend. So yeah, ask for people if you can't do it, but try to do your best. Even the simplest stuff like the little UI particles, that's something you can do by yourself. It's really not complicated. Um, so yeah, particle effects are crazy. Like they can go, like people that know how to use them, they can make like the craziest stuff ever. But you have to use them mostly as secondary action of your motion. For example, when I'm hitting the box here on the left, there's little stars and stuff to tell me that I'm actually hitting it. So it will make the game feel a little bit better. It's the same. I know that like a lot of simulators, they make it so when you tap and you click, there's like +1 and stuff popping everywhere. So yeah, that is one way of using particle effects. So for visual effects, honestly, the truth is you can use literally anything that you want um, to make it feel better. I've seen people use parts with physics. Basically, you just throw a bunch of parts that use Roblox's physics to be scattered around when the thing happens. You can use lighting, basically just like making lighting effects, like color correction thrown upside down while the lightning bolt is hitting. Making beams is also good. Trails is also good. Highlights is also good. It's pretty recent highlights. I mean, it's been a couple of years, I think. Um, but yeah, also billboard UIs. When you hit stuff, you can pop like something in it, a little bit like a particle, but like let's say a +1 or +2 or like hit or something. You just have to be creative, basically. The more you personally find ways to do anything, the cooler it will be, and the more people will be impressed. So this is, for example, a process that I did a couple months ago. We wanted to make people an animation about being hit when other people were attacking you. So the first thing we did is we did the hit animation, and it was good, but no matter how we tried to make it feel good, we really needed more. So it wasn't like, no matter what the animation was, it wasn't enough. So what I added was a little bit of shake. I'm shaking the root joint in the character in the humanoid root part, and this already felt a little bit better. Like it felt actually more dynamic, and it's also quite random because it's just a noise. The next thing was adding an highlight. So when um, things get hit, the whole character gets highlighted. This makes it so much stand out from literally everything around it. Like you immediately know that you've hit this person because you're going at him and he lights up red. So your game feel already starting to be super solid. And then the last step was adding particle effects, which, as you can see, just makes it even way more bright and obvious. Of course, there's been the process of sound design, but I didn't really want to include sounds in the presentation itself. So yeah, that's about it. Let me see. I have the live challenge, I think. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's where you guys take it. Um, what is the primary focus of game feel? Like, what are we trying to achieve? Is it realism? Is it feedback? Is it performance? Or is it replayability? I guess I'll wait for the music to be cut off. Okay, let's move on. Just a quick conclusion, I guess, before the second challenge. Basically, you can use game feel features, uh, taking the time to use like polished emotion, make things move, add particle effects, take the time to do a great passive sound on your game. Um, and yeah, it will just make it stand out like so much. Don't forget that it will take you a couple times to get it right. Basically, the more you take feedback from people and the more you play test your game, the better your game feel will be. I've been doing this for like years at this point, so really it's just do it. Like keep processing, like keep practicing, doing do it so much, and at some point, it will be a lot easier to do the right decisions at the beginning. But even then, you'll be wrong. I'm wrong sometimes when I do it. So yeah, it's really fun. So honestly, it's one of the fun parts of making games. So yeah, that's about it. I'll move on to challenge number 2. So is it okay? I don't hear the music. So what is the most important aspect of game feel? There's animation, sounds, effects, or all of this. Okay, that's about it. That's we're gonna do a little Q&A. I don't know if there's questions. I don't really see I don't have a second screen.
Thank you. We got you. Thank you, Plutonem and everyone. So we're going to jump into the Q&As. Remember, you can send all of your questions through the Q&A tab located at the top of the chat. And I will go ahead and read some of these questions off for you. So first and foremost, we're going to get started with a very simple one. How did you get started developing on Roblox?
um, when I was a kid, I really like playing games. I played on like a GameCube and everything. Um, so yeah, I always kind of like liked video games. And then when I discovered Roblox, I didn't really think I was gonna make games or experiences or whatsoever. I kind of like just enjoyed making things. Um, and over the time, uh, I just did it more and more, and it became, a passion. I did this hours on end, and yeah, that's about it. Just kept going forever and ever.
Awesome. And what motivates you to continue on a Roblox game and continue making such great effects?
um, that's a good question. Let me think. I think like there's nothing more rewarding than having people hit you up and tell you like your game or stuff, or anything you've made, like made them childhood memories. So I've been making games for a long time. I can actually stop sharing my screen. Yeah. So basically, yeah, I've been making games. I think I released my first one in like 2017. So I get some people like messaging me and telling me um, it's amazing how the games I've made changed their lives, and it was some of the best memories they've had from their childhood on game, like on Roblox and stuff. So this is really a big motivation. Um, Otherwise, yeah, I do it for my friends, for myself. We really enjoy doing it. It's a really amazing like creativity through the max, I guess. But yeah.
Great. And very simple one again. Where did you learn to do all of this? Where did you start learning all of this?
So back in the day, the wiki was a little bit clunkier, but we used this a lot. Um, it basically the documentation of Roblox used to be called a wiki. Otherwise, we had the forums that were amazing. Even today, I still use the dev forum a lot. You can go to college in 3D arts if you want to learn a lot about 3D arts and tech art and stuff like this. Um, but yeah, honestly, just get yourself surrounded by great people, have great ambitions, learn from them, and you'll only get better. So that's it. That's it. Anything else?
So sorry, I was muted.
No problem.
Do you have any advice for how to make a game's core loop not become boring and repetitive for the player base?
Um, yeah, I guess make a great game feel, that's for sure. But design your core loop to be simple, to be easily understandable. I like the quote from one of the Roblox things, and I always remembered it. It's basically your players will not have access to your game design document. So make sure that they're capable of understanding it in just, by just looking at a picture like a thumbnail or anything. You can basically understand jailbreak just by the title of it and also by the thumbnail. So keep that mentality when you make games. Keep it simple and it'll do great.
Great.
Awesome.
And do you have any advice to people that are new at making games?
Mm, I think in this, like at this age, I would say use AI to help yourself, not necessarily to make it do everything. You like use it as a learning tool, because at the end of the day, you'll always be the master in the in control, I guess. So yeah, just use every resource that you can think of and experiment the most that you can with what you know, and try to push yourself a little bit every day. Um, but yeah, you can use AI today with as like a personal tutor, which is amazing. Otherwise, yeah, just meet great people, ask them questions, um, and you should be good to go.
Cool. And have you ever given up on a project before? And this kind of ties back to, motivation and what motivates you to keep creating games.
I mean, of course, I think every developer has done this a couple of times. We like probably abandoned one projects, then actually completed some. So I would say at the beginning, I think like the biggest problem people have is they put themselves like too difficult projects, which is okay. Like it's a learning curve. You'll get to know your not like what you know and what you don't know, and you'll slowly be able to actually do bigger and bigger stuff. But the reality is start with the simple stuff. You'll have way more success to finish everything. But of course, when you get started, you want to make the coolest thing in the world. Um, but yeah, you probably won't on your first try. So give yourself a chance.
Gotcha. And how can you hook the players up with effects and sounds, etc.?
Um,
It's a
basically,
big one, huh?
no, it's basically the whole talk. Watch the talk. No, but seriously, just make it feel justified. Make it feel like um, whatever they're doing actually makes sense. Um, if you have like whatever action or whatever your game is. Honestly, whatever mechanic is, focus on helping like sounds and effects and whatever you have at your disposition to just like make your core loop and your gameplay very, very good and very, very like clear. No time for confusion, you know. So yeah, that's about it.
All right. And where can they learn more about this kind of stuff beyond just your talk? Where could they find resources to learn
Um,
more about things like animation and programming?
there's amazing resources on the dev forums from people. You can learn a lot from the Roblox side of things. If you're adventurous and you want to go onto uh, more, established things, there's GDC talks that are amazing. There's a lot of YouTubers that make great content, whether it's for Unity, Unreal, Roblox, or any game engine. Um, but yeah, a lot of the things that work for Roblox happen on the dev forum. So this and yeah, take a look at games also. Play a lot of Roblox games. You'll kind of get the grasp of it better than anything. So yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. And what is the best way to show struggle in a game?
Um, struggle is often camera. Well, things shaking is often something you want. So the math.sign thing. It's sin, whatever. I don't know really how to pronounce it, but basically it's a waveform. Um, if you put this onto whatever you have, whether it's like a model C frame, a part C frame, when you want the thing to be struggling, like for example, like lifting something, but the thing's not really lifting, shaking that thing will make it feel like it's struggling to move. Was that the right answer to the question? I guess.
That sounds
That
right
makes
to
sense.
me.
Okay, perfect.
And it kind of goes back to your early Roblox journey, but what kind of inspired you to get started in developing games?
um, I wanted to make great games. I played a lot of Battlefield when I was a teenager, and I kind of wanted Roblox to be as cool as playing Battlefield with my friends. So it took me like 10 years to make like a proper first person shooter, but but yeah, basically I think it's really like the social aspect of Roblox, which is amazing. It was really complex to play games multiplayer back then. It wasn't as easy. Roblox is amazing for this. You can hop in with so many of your friends, play the same game together. So yeah, I think like just basically creating games that I would want to play, and I actually had fun personally playing. So yeah.
Right. And do you have any advice for players that might struggle to create such effects and get to your caliber of skill?
Um, I would say you don't necessarily need to be the best at anything. You can take um, little things can do so much. So take the time to do the little things that you're capable of doing. It's probably more than enough. Like a lot of people don't actually take the time to do the game feel for their game. They don't really take the time to do a second pass on it. So if you're just taking the time to do it once at your level, you'll probably be totally fine and you'll be ahead of a lot of people. So don't try to be someone else. Be yourself. Do your best, and it's definitely enough. Yep.
Awesome. And what techniques would you recommend for more complex chained animations? For example, a large mechanical robot stomping around, performing multiple secondary actions.
Yeah. So at this point, you'll probably want to hop in onto something like Blender or even the animation editor. I haven't really talked about them because I feel like they have a little bit of a steep learning curve. And it's not a talk about animation on its own. Like, uh, I don't want to scare people away with keyframes and stuff, but yeah, learning Blender and importing your rigs, animating them in Blender, watching videos about this. Um, yeah, this is probably the best way you want to go for this. Just yeah, go with keyframe animations when it's complex, and you'll get as good results.
Cool. And
Awesome.
what did you like most about all of the projects you've done on Roblox?
Playing with people after probably. Once the game is out and you actually go to play with people, and they make like they either play really good, or we made like a building game and people are building the best things ever. So it's really awesome to do, like to be able to play games that you've made with other people. So yeah, that's what I would say is the best.
Aw, cute. And last but not least, what elements can I add to appeal to a more younger audience?
Um, Very bubbly effects. So everything should be, like I talked a little bit about the follow through. When you do stuff for kids, it's very like a lot of like small transitions and a lot of bubbly stuff. Even like actual bubbles actually could pop like in your screen when you do things, like a little bit like the SpongeBob things where it raises in your screen. Um, yeah, take the time to not do stuff like camera shake necessarily. Do the little things, colorful things, confettis, fireworks. Uh, yeah, just take it easy, I guess. Just do it casually. You can watch. I haven't talked about references in general, but it's very, very important when you do anything to look at references, like TV shows or YouTube videos or other games. Like, find the content that you like, that you think is good, and inspire yourself from it. So it's basically the idea of the entire conference.
Awesome. And that was all we had for you in terms of
Awesome.
questions. Thank you, Emil, and thank you everyone for attending Inspire 2024. We're going to go ahead and wrap up now. I hope you all had a great time. Stay tuned for the next workshop, Mastering Remote Events Beginner's Guide with X Man Zach, 1 hour from now. See you there.